When memory fades, love remains #0. 6 is greater than 2 weeks before our divorce was finalized. Julian got into a car accident and lost his memory. His memories regressed to when he was 19, the year he loved me most. Hey, do you want some pineapple tarts from Sullivan's Bakery? I saw them on my way home from work. They're not too sweet. Want me to grab some? It's been raining for days. Julian, your cactus is dying. Julian, when are you coming home? I stared at the chat window on my phone. 2 days had passed, and Julian still hadn't replied to any of my reconciliation messages. This fight between us had been pretty bad. I remembered how he'd slammed the door when he left, saying viciously, "Claire, do you want to divorce me or what?" Divorce. I remembered when he proposed to me how we walked toward marriage, surrounded by the blessings of friends and family. I remembered his promises, "Claire, you have no idea how much I love you. Marrying you feels like a dream." I also remembered a week ago when I found a hair tie in the pocket of his white lab coat. It had a little bear charm, a style I'd never used. It belonged to another girl. We'd had a huge fight about it. When I confronted him, he was rubbing his temples while furiously typing on his phone. Hair tie? I left my coat in the lab. Someone must have grabbed the wrong one. Give it to me, I'll return it Monday. His slender fingers reached toward me, still not looking up. He had pale skin, and there was a mole on his wrist that always looked so alluring. I handed him the hair tie, and he slipped it right onto his wrist. The dangling bear charm covered that mole. I thought about our wedding rings. He hadn't worn his in so long. He still wouldn't look at me, focused on replying to messages on his phone. Not until my voice cracked with tears, "Whose hair tie is this?" I yanked the tie off his wrist and demanded an answer. Those beautiful eyes of his finally landed on me, narrowing slightly. "My students." "Why would your student's hair tie be in your pocket?" "I told you, wrong coat." "Why didn't someone else take the wrong coat?" "Why her?" "Is this really how you want to do this, Claire?" And so it devolved into a fight where nobody won. Julian was a scientist, a chemistry professor working in a research lab at a prestigious university. Arguing with him was always exhausting. He had this superior attitude, convinced he held all the truth, and he was frustratingly good at finding logical holes in your arguments to attack. If that's what you think, there's nothing I can do. In the end, he gave up trying to communicate. As he closed the door, he threw the blame back at me. "Claire, do you want to divorce me or not?" I didn't know how to describe my position in this relationship. I was afraid he'd leave. Afraid he was cheating. I just wanted some reassurance. That's all. After he graduated, he stayed on as faculty and became quite well known. He'd even gone viral once for being too handsome. I knew I understood he couldn't only have male students. In a lab, interactions were inevitable. I just wished he would explain things to me properly, look at me, pull me into his arms, and comfort me a little. Like he used to. I didn't know when he'd started changing. He came home less and less, saying he had experiments to run. And it was true over the past few years, he'd won awards and become a busy man. He had reasons not to spend time with me. I kept telling myself that. Until 3 months ago, when I started having a recurring nightmare. In it, Julian was entangled with his female student. He whispered sweet nothings to her, gentle in the way he used to be with me. The tender look in his eyes that hadn't fallen on me in so long was directed at her instead. It hurt so much, like my heart was being torn open. When I woke up and realized it was just a dream, I found my pillow soaked. I'd been crying in my sleep. Even if Julian wouldn't respond to my messages, I could still find out where he was. One of his colleagues was my high school classmate. One text and I had his schedule for the week. I had no idea that during our Cold War, he'd left the state for a conference in the southern city. I grabbed a jacket and my car keys and headed out. When I parked outside the Southern University Science Building, the sky was just beginning to lighten with dawn. I'd driven through the night. To stay alert, I sat in the car sipping coffee from a vending machine. Until someone knocked on my window. "Excuse me, non-attendees and family members can't park here." I rolled down the window to see a girl with a side ponytail. Coincidentally, that little bear charm was dangling from her hair. "I'm looking for someone," I said, meeting her eyes. "Julian Thorne, the one on that banner there?" "He's my husband." The girl's face went pale. "Non-staff or family members can't park here," she repeated mechanically, as if she hadn't heard me. "Julian Thorne is my husband." "Doesn't that make me family?" "You can't prove you're Professor Thorne's wife." I almost laughed. She had a point. Who carries their marriage certificate everywhere? I leaned against the car frame. "Could you please get Professor Thorne for me? I need to speak with him." The girl's expression immediately turned disgusted. Another one of Professor Thorne's admirers pretending to know him. Huh? Julian's admirer? Me? When Julian was pursuing me, this girl probably hadn't even gotten into college yet. I didn't want to waste any more time with her. I rolled up the window and tried calling Julian. The call went straight to voicemail. I was starting to think he'd blocked me. The sun gradually rose, the heat becoming oppressive. I squinted against the glare. Then suddenly, my windshield was covered in white. I sat up straight and adjusted my dash cam because someone was throwing paint at my car. It was that girl. Her eyes were vicious as she clutched the paint bucket. The commotion must have drawn attention because people started gathering to pull her away. When I'd called Julian earlier, the girl had disappeared. I thought she'd decided to leave me alone, but she'd actually gone to grab a bucket of paint meant for wall touch-ups. I sat in my seat, turned on the wipers to clear the paint from the windshield, and locked eyes with her. What kind of students did Julian have? "Lily, why are you throwing paint at someone's car?" The scene drew the attention of several students. One of the guys who pulled her away was someone I recognized, Julian's first graduate student. He probably recognized me too, because when I got out of the car, his face went pale. Mrs. Thorne. His voice was trembling. "Where's Julian?" I asked. "Professor Thorne should be here any minute." He didn't finish because a cold voice cut through our conversation. "Lily, get over here." Julian was calling the girl who'd thrown paint at me. I rarely saw him scold students, though I'd heard his teaching style was quite strict. He stood on the steps, looking down at her, not holding back at all. Soon, the girl was crying, her head bowed. But I thought she was here to harass you." She seemed scary. The girl's crying grew louder, as if she'd suffered some terrible injustice. Julian pressed his hand to his forehead and sighed helplessly. "The squeaky wheel gets the grease, I suppose." I fiddled with my phone until a shadow fell over me. "I'm sorry." It was Julian. This was the first thing he'd said to me on the 8th day of our Cold War. I looked up to meet his eyes. They were, as I remembered, detached and beautiful. That's why he always controlled my emotions. That's why everyone called us the perfect couple. "Don't call the police," he said, his gaze falling on the 911 displayed on my phone screen. "Why not?" I tried to swallow the dryness in my throat. "You're fine. Don't bother the police." "Julian, your student just threw paint at me," I emphasized. She didn't even apologize. I looked past him to see his student being led away by several people. That bear charm was still swinging. "I'll apologize on her behalf, okay?" I heard him soften his tone. He was pleading with me now. For his student. After all these days of our Cold War, he hadn't tried to comfort me once. "Julian?" I said his name. Maybe my tone was too cold because he paused. Then he sighed and rubbed his temples, his usual response to me, as if he was constantly indulging me. That student has bipolar disorder. She has episodes sometimes. If you call the police and they investigate, she could face disciplinary action. Just let it go, okay? So what is less than #0? 6# is greater than. Why should I care if she faces consequences? I scraped at the drying paint on my window with my finger, not sure how to remove it now. What if I say I'm definitely calling the police? After a long pause, Julian leaned against the car frame and looked down at me. Claire, this car is mine. Calling the police won't help. I'd forgotten we had 2 cars at home, and I'd driven his this time. But that statement made his position crystal clear. He was protecting his student, no matter what. I suddenly remembered how in high school, he'd jumped the school fence to fight off some thugs who were bothering me. When we got to the hospital, he'd shown me his bandages with a grin. I'm fine. Nothing a kiss from my wife can't fix. I opened my mouth, not knowing what to argue about anymore. He thought that was the end of it. He reached out to ruffle my hair. Come on, don't argue with a kid. Have you eaten? Let me buy you something. I paused for a long time, sunlight breaking across my feet. There was a question I'd been wondering about for so long without an answer. So I looked at him blankly. Julian. But you said you'd never let me be wronged. Saying this would probably make Julian think I was being childish again. But I never got his response because someone in the distance was calling our names. Wow, I saw you two from far away and thought it looked like you. Claire, Julian, long time no see, is less than #0. 6# is greater than. The voice was full of energy. The person approaching had bright, starry eyes, smiling as he greeted me. Hey, what happened to your car? Are you okay? Julian instinctively moved to shield me. After all these years, he still tensed up the same way around Everett. In high school, the whole school knew about Julian and Everett both pursuing me. People even started betting on which one I'd choose. Later, I got together with Julian, and Everett went to college in another city. I never expected to run into him again after all these years. Someone threw paint at the car, I said, keeping it vague since it was a private matter. What? Did you call the police? Who did it? Did you catch them? Are you hurt? Everett moved to check on me, but I was pulled behind Julian. From grabbing my wrist to holding my hand to interlocking our fingers, Julian's grip tightened progressively. But I felt unsettled by Everett's natural concern. Because even this acquaintance we hadn't seen in years thought I should call the police. Your car's probably not safe to drive like this. Where are you headed? If it's on my way, want a ride? Sure. No. Julian and I gave opposite answers simultaneously. His face darkened considerably. What ride? You have a husband. Why would you need someone else to drive you? Sitting in Everett's car, I wasn't sure if I was being spiteful or if there was another reason. Either way, when I glanced back, Julian's expression was thunderous. After rubbing my temples, the car drove for a while before I asked Everett to drop me at a convenience store. I couldn't actually let him drive me home across state lines. Are you okay? As I got out, he tilted his head with concern. After all these years, his gaze hadn't changed sincere and earnest, with nothing hidden. It somehow lifted my mood a little. I shook my head and thanked him. Claire? He smiled at me, his voice a bit hoarse, though his eyes still crinkled with warmth. I never got to wish you a happy marriage. The implication was clear. The ring on my finger still gleamed, yet it felt mocking because Julian wasn't wearing his. I stood alone on the slightly desolate street. After driving all night without sleep, I was dizzier than I'd realized. Reaching my limit, I called a rideshare and waited in the shade. While waiting, I saw a message from Julian, "Let's get divorced." very decisive. Actually, Julian had said things like this to me many times before. If you want to break up, if you want a divorce, then let's just end it, Claire. To outsiders, Professor Thorne seemed rational and aloof, but when it came to relationships, he was actually quite dramatic and petulant. In college, because I stayed late to discuss a project with a male teammate from debate club, he showed me this side of himself for the first time. He deleted all my contacts, and I couldn't reach him. I had to go find his roommate, who said Julian had been sulking in their dorm for 3 days. His roommate teased, "Julian, are you a princess? You absolutely must be coaxed." After that, Julian seemed to have found his foolproof method with me. Every fight, he'd give me the cold shoulder, and I'd be the one to apologize. Gradually, he started using this tactic to test whether I loved him. Like how every time I chased after him, he'd hold me so tight, as if trying to meld me into his embrace. "Claire, I think I'm sick. The thought of you leaving makes me feel insane. I really love you. I'm afraid you'll leave." Every time he said I love you, I'd soften, thinking he just had a bad temper. He did love me. He'd done so much for me because of my job. He'd given up another university he preferred. But this wasn't right. At some point, our relationship had developed problems. The crack had been growing silently, where we couldn't see it, until it became what it is now. I was tired. Sitting in the car, I thought about it and drafted a message. We should probably take some time to cool off. The message didn't send. He'd blocked me. Staring at the red exclamation mark, I felt nearly consumed by helplessness. I saw Julian again 2 weeks later, at a coffee shop near his university. Over the past few days, he'd cut off all contact with me. Finally, one of his students reached out. "Mrs. Thorne, please come back, okay? Is less than #0. 6# is greater than. The lab's atmosphere has been so oppressive these past few days. I'm starting to think the AC is broken. I swear, our professor definitely didn't cheat. He's had his 'don't mess with me' face on 247. Anyone who tries to flirt with him might as well be winking at a brick wall. Please come take him back and liberate us." I looked at the man sitting across from me, eyes downcast as he sipped his coffee. He did seem thinner, but he always kept himself well-groomed. Today he wore a navy blue coat. I had to admit, he looked good with his pale skin and those deep, beautiful dark eyes that radiated a cold aloofness. He drew glances from young women the moment we walked in. "What do you want to say? I have 15 minutes before I need to teach." His gaze shifted from his watch to me. I'd been through this many times before. This was him giving me an out, a finish line to our argument. If I'd just follow his lead and coax him a bit, we'd be past it. I reached down and pulled out the bag I'd brought. He frowned. "I don't want your gift." He didn't finish because I pulled out a stack of papers and 2 red booklets. "This is the divorce agreement. Look it over and see if there's anything you disagree with. If not, sign it. Here are our marriage certificates. I brought them. Julian, whenever you're free, let's finalize the divorce." I paused, then added, "Today." I stood by the lecture hall, waiting for Julian to finish class. I was familiar with this place. Julian held all his public lectures here. During our first year of marriage, whenever I had time, I'd come here to wait for him after class. Julian and I weren't compatible. Why did it take me until now to admit it? Sunset streamed through the windows. The last student left the classroom. I watched Julian slowly pack up his lecture notes. Students for the next class were already crowding the hallway before he finally walked out. He followed behind me as we drove from his university to the Civil Affairs Bureau. We didn't speak the entire way. From submitting the paperwork to processing to completion, the clerk informed us there was a 30-day cooling-off period, during which either party could withdraw their request. As we left the bureau, birds circled overhead. "I'm coming home with you," he said on the steps, the first words Julian had spoken to me since I'd asked for a divorce. "To get my things." He walked past me with his hands in his coat pockets. As he passed a trash can, he unclipped the charm from his keychain and tossed it in. The arc was clean and decisive. It was a gift I'd given him our first wedding anniversary present. My divorce from Julian caused a minor stir in our social circle. After all, we'd been the model couple among our friends for years. We'd gone from college to marriage surrounded by everyone's blessings. But this time, I wasn't going to give in to Julian. As for Julian, he was too proud he wouldn't care about me. The divorce wasn't as painful as I'd imagined. After sleeping for a few days with my head buried under the covers, I actually felt okay. Julian took all his belongings, and I could pretend he'd never been here. After adjusting for a few days, I was able to go back to work normally. 11 days later, I received news that Julian had been in a car accident, hit, on his way to teach. He already had a low-grade fever when it happened. You know how miserable Julian's been since the divorce, right? Getting drunk, locking himself at home, anyone could see he was a mess. A mutual friend was gossiping with me when I received a phone call. "Hello?" I answered while texting back. "Babe." The voice had a heavy nasal quality. I checked the number, didn't recognize it. But I recognized the voice, the habitually lazy tone, the familiar way of calling me. There couldn't be a second person in the world who sounded like that. I hung up and blocked the number. I wrote it off as a wrong number. The current Julian would never speak to me in that tone. It was too bizarre. But a few days after that call, another one came through. This time, from the city hospital. "Hello, is this Miss Claire Bennett?" I hesitated. "Yes. We admitted a car accident patient a few days ago. His name is Julian Thorne. His brain suffered some damage, and he's currently experiencing memory regression and emotional instability. Since he keeps repeating your name after evaluation, we were wondering if you could come to the hospital to assist with some psychological comfort and recovery work." I caught that flicker of doubt and sighed. His memory. Regress to when? Based on preliminary assessment of his words and behavior. 2015. 2015. Julian would have been 19. The year he loved me most. Hospital rooms are always bright and clean. I stood by the bed, being held by someone. Julian really had lost his memory. His movement was too fast when he rushed to hug me. I couldn't dodge. "Claire, I think I lost my memory. I can't remember anything. They said I'm 26 now. Is that true?" His voice was hoarse and trembling. I stood there, slowly prying his fingers apart one by one. Yes. His eyes widened in shock at being pushed away. Back in college, we were in that sickeningly sweet honeymoon phase. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say Julian only had eyes for me then. This kind of rejection from me would have been enough for him to realize something was wrong. "Claire." He called my name again, sitting on the hospital bed, looking up at me. For a moment, he looked like an abandoned puppy, his clothes disheveled, the IV needle loose. He'd gotten so much thinner these past few days, but with his good looks, he only appeared more pitiful, especially when those eyes gazed at me. Memories I'd worked so hard to escape came flooding back, reminding me that Julian had returned to the past. He really had gone back. He didn't remember anything. I lowered my head slowly, unable to suppress a bitter laugh. But what did it matter? I spoke slowly. "Yes, you're 26 now. Julian, you married me 2 years ago. Then you divorced me. So we have nothing to do with each other anymore. Julian, we're completely over." The light left his eyes. He sat there as if he couldn't comprehend my words at all. "What? What did you say?" In the hospital room filled with summer cicadas, his voice broke into fractured syllables. Why did we get divorced? Weren't we supposed to be together forever? Looking up at the fragmented summer light, he didn't understand. He asked me, I don't remember how I left that hospital room. I just know I walked out. I couldn't meet his eyes, the eyes of 19-year-old Julian. Back then, he'd rest his chin in his hand and smile at me, follow me around obediently, ask, Babe, want to try the new noodle place on campus with me? I tested it for you, it's really good. He wouldn't be ambiguous with female students. He wouldn't stay away from home for days on end. He wouldn't snap at me or threaten me with divorce. It was like fate was playing a cruel joke on me. I'd already accepted his changes. I'd already taken that step to leave. And now he'd gone back to the past, using those same eyes from before to ask me why I was leaving. The solution to heartache might be throwing yourself into work. When I looked up that afternoon at the office, the city had already fallen into dusk. When I walked out of the company building, hardly anyone was around. I walked alone in the evening breeze until I saw someone standing under a streetlight in the distance. I frowned. Why are you here? Julian was still wearing hospital scrubs. His tall frame looked ethereal under the lamplight, beautiful, but like a strong breeze could knock him over. He just looked at me quietly. Too quietly. I just wanted to see you. He sniffled, smiling somewhat desolately, his eyes still fixed on me. When I woke up, so many people had changed. I didn't know what to do. So I wanted to see you. How did you find me? I asked people in my contacts. Looked one by one until I found this place. He still didn't know how to stay out of trouble. Don't send me away, Claire. He covered his face with both hands, his voice muffled, carrying a broken, clinging desperation. Everything changed when I woke up. I don't even know how I became a college professor. I'm not used to so many things now. I don't know the friends I have now. I can't reach my grandmother. Right, Julian didn't know anything now. His only living relative, his grandmother, had passed away a year ago. I only have you left. Don't leave me yet. Okay? He grabbed my sleeve. I pushed him away. He froze, then said sorry, looking flustered. I kept my head down. The evening breeze whispered. Under the flickering lamplight, we sat on the edge of a planter. How strange, I only got the chance to say these things to him after he lost his memory. Julian, after we got married, we fought all the time. You came home later and later, saying you needed to work toward tenure, do research. I could never see you. I'd make food to bring you, and you never ate it. I'd bring you lunch, and you'd say you already ate in the cafeteria. You'd toss the lunchbox aside. Yeah, you tossed it aside along with me. I don't know if you fell out of love. I just became more and more insecure. That day, I found a girl's hair tie in your pocket. I questioned you, and you thought I was being unreasonable. Then we had a huge fight. Every time we fought, you wanted me to be the one to apologize. This time was the same I drove to find you. Then my car got paint thrown on it by your student. That time, you protected your student. I don't know what I even mean to you anymore. I really don't. I stared into his eyes. They were so clear, but I couldn't find any answers there. His eyes were full of disbelief. He shook his head almost in a daze, nearly pleading, I wouldn't do those things. How could I treat you like that? He suddenly pulled me into his arms, holding me tight, instinctively rubbing my head. That's how he used to comfort me. But now I could only tilt my head and stare at the empty night. Really? I said. So even 19-year-old you doesn't understand 26-year-old you. I sighed. The night swallowed us whole. Julian, the day we filed for divorce, you threw away the charm I gave you. I remember all these things you don't. So how can I turn back? I really don't want you anymore. I don't want to be with you anymore. I pulled away from him and stood up. He sat there, head bowed, expression hidden. Don't follow me. When your memory comes back, you'll understand. The stone path had somehow gotten wet. He covered his face, his shoulders shaking. Don't go. Don't leave me. He said it like a desperate plea. I was truly shocked. Turns out the professor is this kind of person. Julian's top student sent me a message while I was on my way home. Lily got transferred out of our research group. The professor cut her loose, just like that. Mrs. Thorne, you have no idea. The day the professor had his accident and they found out he lost his memory, he was going crazy trying to see you. Man, the professor at 19 was really like this. I paused for a few seconds, then replied, "Don't call me Mrs. Thorne." I turned off my phone screen. Julian had probably been discharged by now. Even without recovering his memories, he'd have to slowly adapt to his new life. As for how he was doing, that was completely none of my business anymore. The moon cast shifting shadows. I'd been working late these past few days. I could tell from the resentful looks my subordinates were giving me. I rubbed my temples, pulled out my car keys, and prepared to head up from the garage. Then I froze. In the empty parking lot stood a figure in a white dress. That bear charm was still swinging from her hair. I frowned. Why was everyone showing up wherever I went these days? Before I could get any closer, the girl dropped to her knees in front of me. I took several steps back. "Please, Professor Bennett, please don't let Professor Thorne fire me. He's so important to me. The research he's leading is my dream. If I have to switch advisors, my life is over." Crazy. From several of Julian's colleagues at the university, I'd pieced together a rough picture of this student. Though she suffered from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, the girl was extremely gifted. She'd tested into Julian's university with the top score in her class. Several professors fought over her, but she chose Julian exclusively. For someone like Julian who valued talent, she was probably a prize student. I didn't want to deal with this. I walked right past her. "You should beg Julian, not me. We're divorced. But everyone knows Professor Thorne listens to everything you say. You're the one who made him fire me." The girl raised her voice behind me. A gust of wind swept past. I instinctively dodged, and I saw a flash of cold light. Cold sweat broke out on my skin. Damn. In the girl's hand was a sharp knife. Nobody in this world loves me. Nobody wants me. Why do you even have to take away the only thing I'm passionate about? The girl glared at me viciously. The knife was less than 10 feet away. The next second, she charged at me again with the blade raised. "Wait, calm down. The person who fired you was Julian, not me. Why aren't you going after him?" Fortunately, in her emotional state, her aim wasn't great. I managed to dodge each slash. "Professor Thorne wouldn't treat me like this if it weren't for you. Why do you get to be with him? You're so stupid you can't even do research. You can't help Professor Thorne with anything. Wait, why was this turning into personal attacks?" I was almost laughing in disbelief, but the next second, I couldn't laugh anymore. She'd backed me into a corner with nowhere left to retreat, and the next moment, the cold light flashed right in front of me. The girl closed in, that slash both decisive and vicious, carrying a reckless malice. Die with me. I instinctively closed my eyes, but the imagined pain never came. The sound of a blade piercing flesh was distinct. I opened my eyes. Someone was standing in front of me. Thank God. "I made it in time," he said. Blood ran down his arm. He held me tightly, gently resting his chin on my shoulder. For a moment, it overlapped with the memory of him shielding me from bullies in high school. Behind us, the knife clattered to the ground. Professor Thorne. The girl's panicked voice trembled. In the distance, sirens grew closer. He held me, or rather, he'd lost strength and could only lean on me. Warm blood finally pooled on my wrist. "How did you get here?" I asked. "I found this. Wanted to show you." He whispered in my ear, pressing a metal charm into my palm. It had a sun design. I had a matching one with a moon. "That charm you mentioned? From our first anniversary, I didn't throw it away. It's at my place. Even though I don't remember anything, I think that day I must have secretly picked it back up. Before I lost my memory, I loved you too. Can you trust me just once?" After saying this, he closed his eyes. The ambulance and police arrived simultaneously. I helped the paramedics load him onto the stretcher. Flashing lights painted the sky red and blue. Julian was hospitalized for the second time. He kept texting me, asking if I could come see him. I ignored them all. The day he was discharged, I went to find him. The joy in his eyes was genuine. They lit up the moment he saw me. He'd changed into regular clothes, walking over to me with a smile. "You came." Man, I've been eating so bland these past few days. Nothing spicy or flavorful. I heard there's a new crawfish place on the east side that's supposed to be amazing. Want me to take you? My treat? He chattered on as if nothing had happened between us, as if we were still the college couple who occasionally bickered. The thin hospital light flowed between us. I looked at his eyes, filled with scattered stars. "No need." I lifted the bag in my hand. I brought the marriage certificates and the original documents. "Julian, the cooling off period is over. We need to get the divorce certificate." The person following me went completely silent. In the car, I drove while he sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window. Anyone could see his mood was dark. But I wasn't the person who would comfort him just because he was unhappy anymore. Unexpectedly, he spoke first. "Can we not get divorced?" His voice was dry, with a pleading tone. I stepped on the gas, not letting someone trying to cut me off succeed. "Julian." The turn signal clicked rhythmically. I said his name. "I never told you that the charm you threw away was from our first wedding anniversary. Your memory supposedly went back to when you were 19. How do you know about things that happened after we got married? When did you recover your memory? When you came to save me? Or earlier? How long were you planning to keep pretending?" Silence spread. We'd sat in this car so many times, sometimes laughing, sometimes fighting. But I thought this would be the last time we sat together like this. I could only focus on the straight road extending endlessly ahead. "Claire." After a long while, he spoke. Surrendering completely, I know I was wrong. "I won't treat you like that again." I don't know why I acted that way. I was being an idiot. I'm a complete bastard. I'm not human. I'm sorry. This apology, Julian. The Civil Affairs Bureau was right ahead. I found a parking spot. Summer wind whispered. Tree shadows flickered in the gaps between us. Finally, I turned to ask him, "Isn't it a bit too late?" After we got the divorce certificate, he and I walked down the steps, one after the other. Pigeons scattered across the plaza. I thought about how I'd finally stop wondering what he wanted for dinner, stop crying in my dreams, stop driving across state lines at dawn to find him. But then, much later, on a certain evening, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I suppose no one would understand why. One day, a man would be sitting on the side of the road, chewing on pineapple tarts, crying like that. "Claire, Sullivan's Bakery pineapple tarts really are delicious. but they're not sweet. Really. Not sweet at all. The end.